What is up, everybody? Welcome here to the Half-Ass Podcast. It is your boy, Quan. I'm here. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, also, we have here Smith. Smith, say what's up to the people, man.
What's up, people?
And also, we have here the author, the creator, the editor, the end-all and be-all of not only Walter Paisley Cafe, but Spadal, Mark Platt. Mark, say what's up to the people.
You know how they say, put your thinking caps on? You're going to need a thinking helmet for this tonight. Just you wait, because we got some hard science fiction for you. Hard. Put on those helmets.
Yeah. This is going to be so tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be reviewing the most complex film I've ever sat down to watch. Smith, you recommended this movie to us a week ago. And I'm thinking this is going to be like, okay, Inception, got it. You know, something like that. Because we kind of had a conversation about it. It was like, okay, have you seen Inception? Okay, it's a little bit more complex. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm all in. I'll get it, whatever. Sat down and watched this movie. Like the first half I kind of got, but, you know, I needed to watch more videos and stuff like that after watching this movie to kind of gain a more understanding. That's how complex this movie was. It's about time travel, but it's a little more to that. Smith, do you have an example of pretty much what this movie is about?
Yeah, I want to start off by reading the IMDb synopsis. It's really short, but I'm trying to make a point here. So IMDb says, 4 friends, fledgling entrepreneurs, knowing that there's something bigger and more innovative than the different error-checking devices they've built, wrestle over their new invention. So as 3 guys who have seen this film, that synopsis is like complete bullshit. It's not even what the film is about. That's the best they could do because this film is really, it's pretty complicated. But it's not about them wrestling over the invention. So eventually, these 4 entrepreneurs, they're engineers or like aerospace people. I don't even know. Doesn't explain it too well, but they accidentally invent a machine that can time travel. So long as it's running, it takes you back to where it initially started. And so 2 of them cut the other 2 guys out. That would be our main characters, John and Abe, right?
Yeah, Abe and Aaron, right?
Abe and Aaron, yeah. So they cut the other 2 guys out, and they decide they're going to run the stock market using this machine. So they would go back in time to like the previous morning after they stayed in a hotel room all day to cut themselves out of the equation. So they're trying to avoid paradoxes and stuff like that. So they watch the stock market all day. They go back in time at the end of the day, and then they they use the public library to bet in the stock market and make a ton of money. But yeah, it goes sour from there because originally Abe had invented a backup machine in case something happened. So he had it running the entire time. So we go back to the start of this whole thing and just shut it down if, like, you know, they start fading out of existence or whatever. And yeah, that's really all I can say. You're gonna have to watch it.
yeah. This movie's a very confusing movie, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, like, look, with the ideas of the box, what did you guys think about? You know, just having that idea of, look, we're gonna create it. Like they created a time machine, and they also learned how to work it and how to figure out how this time machine functions. We all know that obviously this couldn't be real, right? I mean, it can be. I mean, not to, you know, throw that out there, you know, into the world, saying it's never say never, but, you know, in terms of time travel, you know, before we get into the actual details of this movie, what in terms of time travel really kind of gravitated us towards this movie in terms of like keeping us interested in this movie? Mark, I'll start with you.
Well, that's a tough one because my first viewing, it ran pretty slow. I couldn't even watch it in one sitting, honestly. I would say too about at the first half when when things probably got a little bit more interesting forward, but at that point I was just like, okay, I need a little rest. I'm going to come back to it. And so, yeah, that's but the difficulty of it didn't necessarily scare me away. I kind of got that idea going into it. I mean, the movie's only 77 minutes. So the first 30 minutes, I think they kind of set the precedent for everything. And then where it really picks up as far as the complexity goes is just a matter of how they're actually time traveling, using uh, the time travel to their advantage, kind of the conflicts that are going on between the two main characters, as well as some unexpected events that were involved, things like this. So that I think is where it gets confusing, because yeah, I also had to go online. I went on YouTube. I found this video where they kind of made like a map and a chart of how everything goes. Fortunately, although the question remains, what kind of movie? What's the quality of a movie where you have to go back and find a chart on a YouTube video? But once you watch something like that, then it's a little bit more clear. But I think if anything I could say about this film, it's courageous.
Courageous. Okay. Smith, what about you?
So the question is like, what about the way they did time travel in this is appealing, or
yeah, like what in terms of the time travel in this movie kind of made you say, okay, like I'm well invested into this movie.
Well, I like how it wasn't instantaneous. So like it wasn't like, oh, go through this portal and now you're like a year in the future or a year in the past. And that, I don't know if that's been done in other films, but also the fact that they were just going back a day, so they had to cut themselves out of the equation. I don't think I've seen anything else where they accounted for that. Like just going back like an hour and like, oh yeah, that's right, I still exist. So also the side effects they experienced, which don't really get explained in the film, like bleeding from their ears, and like I think they had a couple dizzy spells.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting as well.
And the handwriting.
The handwriting, yeah, that was also crazy.
Yes, the handwriting.
And I don't think they explained that in the film at all. I had to find out from from other sources what was going on with that. But when they initially put their hands over the machine when they were testing it, they actually sent their hand back in time a couple seconds. So I guess it's still attached to their body, but their brain didn't sync up with their hand movements, so they were just messing up their handwriting.
Which is crazy to think about, right? The fact that you have a certain body, you know what I mean? You have a certain a limb, that hasn't caught up with you in terms of time. That like this movie is just a pretzel. Like my brain is like a fucking pretzel after watching this fucking movie and after watching these videos, but in a good way. It wasn't like when I'm sitting there like, I'm legit trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. And throughout this movie, you hear you get this sort of narration, and I want to ask you guys this question too, because I literally don't know. So the phone call, right, where you continue hearing about the guy, which one was it? Was it Future Abe or Future Aaron that was on that?
Yeah, that was Future Aaron.
Aaron, okay. And then there was the other guy they were talking about, right? What's his name? Flats or something like that?
Platt.
Or Platt. That's right. That's the character that we didn't even fucking see.
But they used to work with him or something like that, and then
they helped him
to get rich.
They helped him with they pretty much helped him get rich, but didn't really reap anything from it, right? I think that's what it was.
He screwed them over.
Yeah, he fucked them over.
That's why he wanted to punch him in the face, because he basically took the patent and said "fuck you." So
nuts, man, fucking nuts. But in terms of the phone calls, do you guys think that not even think, was it the future Aaron on the phone?
Yeah.
So that was specified in the movie. Right?
I don't know which future Aaron it was though, because
it was the second copy. Just according to the video that I watched, they numbered each one, where the original was 0, and then of course the first copy is 1, and then 2. I forgot exactly how it ended up being number 2, because I think there was also something to do with Aaron number 4 that was getting the message. Because I know the phone call was from Aaron to a copy of Aaron to another copy of Aaron.
Huh. I got
And it doesn't show him getting the phone call either. So I guess we'll never know
Right? Yeah.
which Aaron he's actually talking to. I would like to believe it's the original Aaron, like right before the events unfolded, and he's like, "Hey, listen, man, this is what's gonna happen," but maybe not.
That's tough. That's tough because that phone call, Aaron, I was very intrigued by that. I was very intrigued by that. Again, the director, God damn it, Shane, whatever the fuck, right? This guy, very fucking smart. And like I said earlier, like this dude used to be an engineer, right? Correct? Mm-hmm. And what he was doing in this movie, he was using the engineer terminology. That kind of took me out of the movie. Like, it didn't take me out of it completely, obviously, but it kept taking me out of the movie because I'm like, okay, what are they saying? Did you guys ever pay attention to the dialogue too? Like when this movie first starts, where you've got Abe, Aaron, and the two other dudes, right? And they're sitting at that table, but they're continuing like the dialogue. They're continuing like talk over each other, and like but you can still somewhat understand what they're saying. That like just the terminology and the dialogue alone kind of set me up for the rest of the movie. Set me up for, okay, this is how they're gonna talk the rest of this fucking movie. I thought this was going to be somewhat of a butterfly effect. Did you guys get any kind of feel that this was going to be like a butterfly effect? I mean, Smith, obviously you've seen this movie before, but was it going to be like a butterfly effect-esque type of movie where it's like every single thing you do, the minuscule thing that you can do will still affect what happens in the future? Or when you go back in time, it would affect the past tense as well?
Well, I think that they really stayed away from a lot of the tropes of time travel films. But mind you, the kind of things that have become time travel tropes have kind of come up since this movie. And so I mean, I'm glad that the phrase "butterfly effect" wasn't used. I mean, I can't think of how many.
I was waiting for it, though. I was kind of waiting for it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what this movie has been. It's kind of like, I'm not going to dumb it down. I'm not going to go the common tropes or whatever. He just made the movie. I mean, it was only a $7,000 movie, so he just made the movie he wanted it made, and whatever. Fuck, it was a passion project. It was a thing of love. So, and it's fascinating to be able to see a film reach something of an audience without all of that bullshit that so many films and television shows have to be infected with just to make sure that they get the average Joe Sixpack's money or whatever, So it was just kind of like, yeah, this is the movie I want to make. I mean, personally, I think it's the hard science fiction film I've ever seen. I'm talking like Moon, 2001, things like movies like that. What was it? Well, I'm not going to sit here and think of all those movies, but yeah, I've seen a lot of hard science fiction. I've read some, but as far as movies go, hardest hard science fiction I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's why when I put the promo up, I think yesterday on Instagram, I used the word because I saw the term. What did they say? One of the critics that reviewed this movie said this movie was pretty much a sudoku classic, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And
yeah, it's a puzzle.
At first, I'm like, all right, kind of in for it. But then you literally start to like, once you get halfway through this movie, it's literally a Sudoku fucking, classic. And Smith, you know more about this movie than we do. Do you know if this movie has a cult classic?
Yeah,
not cult classic. I'm sorry, cult following. Sorry,
I knew what you meant. Yeah, cult following. Yeah, it's got kind of a big fan base. I know most people who watch it like I've seen it probably 30 times. Still don't fucking understand it, but it's one of those things. Like, and I think that was the what's his name? The guy who made it.
Carruth.
Shane Carruth. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was his intention, was that it would be complicated enough to where you'd have to come back, and that would keep bringing viewers back. So it's definitely a cult cult film.
And that's a good I wouldn't say ploy, but that's a good little side note for directors and future directors too, is to, you know, you don't want to make a movie, because to me, I don't think this movie would, if you release this movie in 2021, I mean, would it capture, I mean, obviously, you know, with the, you know, picture and everything, would it capture the audience? I don't know. But once you release the story out into the universe and say, hey, this is what this movie's about. This is what this movie's going to bring you. This is what, you know, this isn't a movie where you're going to be able to sit down and sit there and laugh or whatever for 2 hours. You're going to sit down and you're going to think for an hour and 17 minutes. You're going to sit down and you're going to think from beginning to end. Great movie. But that second half, man, so far gone. Just so far fucking gone. But in terms of time travel, and again, shout out to Kavari, by the way. Kavari came through last week. What's up, man? Thank you for coming back. He says, can't be worse than in-game time traveling. LOL. I actually liked in-game time traveling because it gave it a pretty cool perspective on it. It wasn't just like, hey, let's just go back in time and do shit. No, I mean, they gave us a little bit of, you know, leeway in terms of time travel and an actual legit reason why they needed to go back in time. So, you know, that was pretty cool. Shout out to Kavari again. He says it's a 72% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's decent good. Yeah, it is.
I would say
I didn't look at the Rotten Tomatoes score though.
I would say that's even better than good because of what the film is, you know. Because most people are gonna get through the 30 minutes and be like, "Yo, this film fucking sucks." So 72%, I'd say that's pretty fucking. It's good for what it is.
Yeah, that's true. Again, Rotten Tomatoes, their grading's not that great either when it comes to movies. So I don't put too much stock into Rotten Tomatoes, but it is a good sign when they do rate something that high. Again, a movie like this that high, because you guys got to remember, this movie came out in 2004. I can't remember what movies came out that year, but I didn't hear this, and the fact that I'm hearing of this movie now, and seeing that this movie has had such an impact on the, I mean, would we say it's sci-fi? This count as sci-fi, right?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so
that's just hard science fiction.
You know? Yeah, so it would have a pretty much a big impact on the sci-fi genre then, right?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it was just a very limited release, so you know, it was. I mean, however, according to Wikipedia, I believe it had, I don't know, it brought in a lot more than $7,000. So, you know, according to that budget alone, it's a success. And of course, also you could the DVD and then now streaming, you know, views and everything has created this cult following, and I think it's also something that has warmed up to the critics. You know, I'm pretty sure it started kind of like a WTF kind of thing for people, but as it grew among audiences, you know, the theories started coming out, the cult following, that the critics became warmer, things like that. But this was not for everyone, and nor could it ever be. It would definitely have been. I don't think they would have gotten to the first stage with a major studio like Disney or, you know, Time Warner.
Oh, there's no way in hell Disney would pick this up.
They wouldn't. Nobody. And that's why I say it's courageous, because nobody, you know, with the billions of dollars that the major studios have, would ever take a chance on this, because unfortunately, you know, the money profit comes before the art. Not saying that they can't make good films or films that I can't enjoy, but at the end, it's money.
You know what I think, though? And I'm going to lightly disagree with you. So I kind of agree with you a little bit, because I see where you're coming from. But look at the movies that are greenlit nowadays. I mean, you look at some of the movies that are literally getting this big budget from, let's say, Universal or Warner Brothers or Disney. And it's just like, really? I mean, dude, I just watched a trailer today about fucking Clifford. Clifford the Big Red Dog has a live action fucking movie coming out. And it looks like shit. I know it's not targeting, my demographic of a 28-year-old man, but still that looks horrible. It looks horrible.
Well,
so
animated movies. That's an animated film, right?
No, it's live action.
It's live action.
But I'm sure
action
Clifford
man.
CGI.
It looks horrible.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they might have another Cats and Sonic the Hedgehog on their hands. I haven't seen any of these clips, but there was quite an outrage at those films. And if the CGI is
Sonic
this bad,
they changed Sonic, remember?
And it was
That's
actually
right,
a good movie, I think.
Yeah, I heard it was a pretty good movie too.
It wasn't bad.
but I don't know how Sonic did, but I don't think Cats ever made up for the initial outrage. However, that there was like, oh my god, it's so creepy, and it's kind of a, what is it, the uncanny valley, where the sort of, what the uncanny valley is, where something artificial like a robot or an android is realistic and maybe too realistic or just not enough realistic to where it creeps you out. So the uncanny valley is the area that something artificial, whether it be robotic or animated, will creep you out. So and I don't think Cats was able to get past that. But then again, it might have just been ruined by the initial outrage and people.
Yeah, that movie had a very fast death.
Yeah,
but wasn't it written like shit? I heard the story was like awful. I mean,
that's what I heard. Yeah,
probably. Because that was a movie that was not needed. Again, a movie that got greenlit for no fucking reason at all. That movie was never going to
need to watch that.
You say what?
Maybe we should watch that. What if it's a great film?
Cats?
Think about what they did to A Good Son back in '93. This is probably a hidden gem. It's buried by critics.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to quality, box office numbers don't always, sometimes box office numbers can tell you something about the movie, and often they don't. So yeah, who knows? It would be a great experiment because I haven't seen Cats. I just always heard how horrible it was.
Is it a musical though? It's a musical. Is the movie? I know it's an action musical, but it's a movie.
It was based on a Broadway musical. Yeah.
I hate musicals, but yeah, we'll fucking do it. Whatever. I shouldn't say I hate musicals because I do like what was that fucking musical? I like West Side Story. That was a musical, right?
Yeah.
Wizard of Oz. I fuck with Wizard of Oz, the original one.
Fuck yeah, that was awesome.
But Kavari says, let's get a couple of these. Kavari says, is it on the level of Blade Runner? I still haven't seen Blade Runner, so I don't know.
I would say higher.
You guys can probably answer that.
I've seen Blade Runner more times than I can count, and I still stand that Primer is the hardest hard science fiction. In fact, I would say that Blade Runner isn't necessarily hard science fiction. I mean, it's pretty good as far as that goes, but it's still not hard science fiction in the same sense of, say, Moon or 2001, or I don't know, Gravity, or just films like that where the fiction aspects of the science are very minimal, and you have definitely more a feel of realism. Often these films are claimed to be a little slow. Mind you, I guess a lot of people thought Blade Runner was slow, but yeah, I think Primer was. If there's some sort of Mohs scale of science fiction hardness, I would definitely put Primer at the top.
So if I had, go ahead, Smith.
We'll just do it by liquor. Like, Primer is the straight Everclear of science fiction.
Wow! It burns all the way down.
It's the absolute, huh? So I want to ask you guys about time traveling. right? In terms because this movie showed us a more complex. It showed us a more again a more engineer centric type of way of conducting time travel. So doesn't really have anything to do with film, but I do want to just out of curiosity ask you guys if you guys had the chance to go back in time at any point of time, would you? And if so, where would it be? Or when would it be that you guys would want to go back to? Smith, I'll start with you.
There's like no rules. I can go back as far as I want.
No rules, man.
Yeah, I guess 1920s. Do some research. Bring like $100 back with me. Put it all in the stock market.
Oh my God. Oh, Mark, what about you? Where would you go?
Oh wow, that Smith's idea. My initial idea was not nearly as ambitious as Smith's. I mean, from like a personal perspective, yeah, maybe finding a way to whatever. Well, either way, from my very personal perspective, I'm just going to put my initial idea out there is I'm going to find a way to make sure that I never even date my ex-wife. So that, that was like the domino that fell in my life.
You should have started the fail-safe machine on the day of your wedding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or the day before I even met her, if that was possible. So yeah.
What would you even say to yourself? Like, listen, man. I know you love her, but don't do it.
Well, I know how I think, and I know how I thought then. So I would be able to word it in a way, I would be my usual hyperbolic, over the top self, like, look, dude, you want to go to grad school? This is going to totally ruin it. I could kick you in the nuts right now, and it wouldn't even hurt as much as that. And I'm talking steel toe boot with some spikes on it, kicking the nuts. And so, it give me something to think about it. I would probably have to do about, not a little bit, not too soon before her. I'd just be like, yeah, dude, yeah, okay, you're getting laid, but dude, no, stop. So something like that, yeah. I might just have to kidnap myself and tie myself up or something like that.
I would go back to the 80s and I would tell my teenage mom, convince my teenage mom to never meet my dad so that I would never exist. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm definitely kidding. But no, on all seriousness, I would kind of do what you did, Mark, which is go back to my younger self. Although, I'm fairly young anyway still. But you know what I mean? Like go back to maybe like my teenage self and kind of, give him a little pep talk and say, hey, look, man, this is the way your life's going to go. All right. Now you're going to hit some bumps in the roads or whatever. But you know what? You're going to get it all cleared out by the time you hit 28. But, just in case things don't go well, let's just kind of shed off a few years and kind of move forward. But I kind of wouldn't do that only because I'm a big believer in the butterfly effect. And I feel like once, corn 0 meets corn 1, it's the end. It's the end. Now, I'm not saying like the whole world's going to, catch on fire or anything like that. But the butterfly effect, I mean, I look. I don't think it's a good thing for you to meet your past self or to meet your future self. Again, we're talking in, I believe in, I don't believe fully into this shit, but I do kind of believe that there's such thing as a time machine some way. But yeah, I mean, do you guys even believe in the butterfly effect or no?
Well, I kind of like the way this movie put it, where, he kept his cell phone in that one scene. And he gets the call that he was supposed to get that day in the hotel room, and nothing happened. So I think maybe, people think about it too much. Like, oh yeah, you go back in time. There's two of you, whatever.
That's a good attitude to have too. That's a good attitude to have. Mark, what about you? Do you believe in the butterfly effect? Did this movie kind of help you, not believe in it?
Well, I am going to get a little deep here. So anybody who don't want to hear some deep philosophical shit, go ahead and fast forward. All right. Because we're talking about butterfly effect. What we're talking about is, what are we talking? Like free will, determinism, things like this. Okay, now, on this scale, you got free will, which is, if you make choices and you're free to make your choices and you're responsible for every choice you make. Then you have determinism, which is your choices and your actions have already been determined through cause and effect. And then even further on the scale is fatalism, which is everything that ever happened or happens is going to happen no matter what. There's nothing you can do. Determinism, that could be a thing. You can't exactly see where the determinism is going, the cause and effect, because it spreads out so much. And then, of course, you have compatibilism, which is where the compromise between free will and determinism is. Personally, I think fatalism, that's way out. That's like really woo. That's like people that, like, I don't know, drink kombucha and shop off of like Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop shop or whatever. That's, we're always, like, just really bad movies love using fatalism. However, as far as but I do lean toward determinism. I think that cause and effect is, a pretty strong and influential thing. If where, of course, people are worried, like, well, then how can you could be responsible for your actions? Okay, that's a bigger conversation. But my point is that Daniel Dennett, he's an analytic philosopher, an American. He's a compatibilist, but he's kind of a light compatibilist in the sense that he's more of a determinist and just think that free will is something of a useful illusion. Like, it's good for us to think that we have free choice. We can sort of act that way, but determinism is that. So yeah, I kind of look at him like, yeah, that sounds reasonable. So I kind of do believe in the butterfly effect, despite the fact that I probably chose a very irresponsible thing to do to go back in time. But I know myself enough to know that had I access to such technology, I would probably do something irresponsible and impulsive, because that is the story of my life. So I don't know. Yeah,
I'm right there with you,
though. yeah. Because, I don't know. I spent 20 years thinking over and over again in my head, what would have happened to me had I not even met that woman? And so, yeah, curious minds want to know. I want to know, whatever. I guess I'm the Joker, watch the world burn for one choice.
I've met some crazy women in the time that I've been alive, but I cannot wait to hear the story of this crazy woman that has.
I'm not trying to put her down. I'm talking about, it's just choices I made. I'm not trying to speak ill of her, and even though she probably will never see this anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm talking about choices that I made. That just, I don't know. Maybe they're kind of putting her down because, like, I think things would have turned out bad regardless of how anything she would have done. I'm that guy. I can admit when I'm wrong, and I made a lot of wrong choices. But remember, kids, you're never too young to make to have regrets. So that's my Disney answer. All right, kids, you're never too young to have regrets. Remember, that's the lesson of this story.
Holy shit. Well, I don't even know how to follow that. Before we get to our grades, I want to ask you guys, because I've noticed a couple things with this movie that I would want to that I would say I wouldn't necessarily say the director should need to fix, but things that I noticed in this movie that I would do better. And that English, again, I know that the secret to him having this movie and making it a classic and having people come back to this movie for references and everything else, more information about time travel and everything, yada, yada. I understand that he put that terminology in there, but that is my number one thing with this movie is just the terminology. And this movie I felt like this movie needed to be slowed down a little bit more. Like it just needed to be longer. Not any more, details in this movie, but just slowed down. Like the scenes probably stretched out a little bit longer. I mean, maybe I guess in the long run, yes, a little more detail, but not too much more detail to where it's like we're trying to consume more and more and more, throughout this what could be a 2-hour movie instead of a 1 hour and 17-minute movie, as complex as it is. But Smith, I'll start with you. What could you change about this movie to make it better?
Well, you kind of made this point moot with what you said, because if you change it, probably wouldn't be a classic. Because like, what's the first thing most people are going to say? Which is, I don't know, maybe dumb it down a bit so we can actually understand what the fuck is going on. But at the same time, like, defeats the purpose. So outside of that, I would like to know, first of all, what the first copy of Aaron did, because he was the one who, if I'm not mistaken, he fought Aaron. The original copy fought the new copy of Aaron, and then the original copy overpowered him. But then he realized that he had more invested, so he just left. Like, he's like, all right, you take over from here. Now you're the original Aaron, technically. And then they don't explain what happened to that dude. And the second copy that comes back, which I guess was the one who wasn't locked in the attic, or maybe that was the one, I'm not sure. It's really complicated. But at the end of the movie, you can see he's like speaking French or Spanish. It's a love language or something. And he's telling people, every 3 meters, set this up. And it doesn't, I just thought he had a job. Like he's in a different country and he's working a job. But it turns out he's building a giant machine similar to what they were using to time travel in the first place. They don't explain that. So had I not looked into it, he's just a dude with a job, But I think it means a lot more to the movie to have him continue on this work. So it's like sort of like a cliffhanger,
And as I was doing research about this movie too, Shane Carruth was actually supposed to make a sequel to this movie called what was it? I don't know if you guys know about it, but it was called supposed to call A Tapathia or Tapothea, something like that. And it never got made. The script was done and everything. And he was looking for an actual like production studio to do it, and it never got picked up. I know actually it got picked up. They started doing casting, and then it just never got fully picked up for a movie. So, and then as of like a year or so ago, Shane Carruth said that he was going to retire because of Hollywood. He hated Hollywood and the way they work, which is honestly, that's what real people do when when they see shit happening in Hollywood and they see how corrupt Hollywood is in the film industry. So yeah. Mark, what about you? What would you fix about this movie?
Well, that's a tough one that I've been mulling over in my head because part of me wants to say that because it was his passion project, I know that, I do wonder what it would have been like if he had not necessarily a huge amount of money, but unlimited resources in the sense of, I don't think he would have had a budget of like hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever. But it would be interesting to see how he would have been able to make it had he had more money to do it. But I don't know, that could have ruined it. I mean, it's sort of, having a history with punk rock, you could see how great things come in the face of adversity or with budget and things like that. And maybe it would ruin the spirit of that. So I don't know, but it's just an interesting thought that I have about that film where, I think he would keep it within his thing and not worry about dumbing it down. I mean, clearly, he didn't have that with only the $7,000. But I don't know. It would have been kind of interesting to see if he had more, if he even needed more. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. But since I don't know, I'm curious.
Facts, mega facts. So now I want to get to the grades. I want to get you guys' final grade on this movie. Now, Smith, you said this movie is one of your favorites. So having seen this movie, you said about 30 times you've seen this movie?
Probably, yeah.
Holy shit. That's over 30 hours at the least spent on this movie. So, Smith, without further ado, what is your grade for this movie and why?
Just an A. Not an A plus because I know I'm thinking subjectively, but like from a person viewing it who it's not like their favorite movie, I'd give it an A. If they can, if they don't just like dip out in the first 30 minutes and give it a bad review. But yeah, it's an A because it's an independent film for one, which obviously I think any independent film is going to deserve higher than what the studios come out with. Because I think you should always be more critical of what they're doing because, like you said earlier, you know that they're doing it for money. I think Mark mentioned that, and this guy was making a film because he had this idea and he executed it. It's a passion project. All that deserves an A.
And to caveat off of that too, Shane Carruth, he's only made like 3 big films, and I wouldn't say like huge film, but 3 films like on the scale of this movie. And they've all been passion films, and I'm super glad that we get to see a director like that be able to have that kind of drive to say, hey, fuck the big name studios, I'm gonna do my own shit, and see how many people flock to the theaters or flock to to digitally download this movie or digitally buy this movie. So yeah, like you said, all due respect to people like Shane Carruth, to the guys that want to stay independent and still be able to put out quality content. So yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. Mark, what about you? What was your grade for this movie?
All right. Well, full disclosure, yeah, I'm a fan of science. I'm a fan of science fiction, but at the same time, I wasn't a very good science student or math or whatever. But I like popular science in the sense of, the type of science that, popularizers like Bill Nye the Science Guy or Michio Kaku talk about, or Stephen Hawking. I've read those books and things. So it's always interesting to be able to watch it or read about it. Although I need some sort of help, I need that crutch of the popularizer. But so that's the full disclosure is just to show it's like, yeah, maybe somebody can say, oh, gee, Mark, yeah, you're just gushing over this movie. What do you really know? So, but the thing is okay, the other thing I wanted to warn about is my grades are not based on necessarily on recommending the movie to everyone. Like, yes, I would only recommend this film to very specific people. There's people that I have in mind that I know would take my recommendation and actually go forward and watch it, but that's not necessary.
Kind of like Cannibal Holocaust at all, right?
Yeah. But Cannibal Holocaust is another one. But I don't recommend that to everyone for different reasons. So with this one, yeah, it's very cerebral. But on the other hand, the one thing that might get lost a little bit in the jargon and the hard science fiction is there is character in this film. There is some actual conflict. There is conflict between Aaron and Abe. There's conflict between Aaron's and Aaron's and Abe's and Abe's. And then you got Rachel's father, Thomas Granger, that sort of thing going on in there. So there's a story here. There's really a story. It's not just like you're sitting down and watching some sort of grad school level documentary or something like that. But I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have a grad school level engineering degree or something like that. So that's all to say. I give it an A.
Okay. So Mark, you're giving it an A. Smith, you gave it an A. Guess the pressure's on me now, huh? Yeah. So, look, this movie was good. I like this movie, although, again, for like the millionth time, the second half of this movie, I just couldn't really get. Like, I don't know whether I just need to watch this movie again. Obviously, I do. Obviously, I need to watch this movie again to get more of a grasp of what is going on in the second half of this movie. So I can't blame that specifically on the director or the cast or anything like that. Like you mentioned earlier, Smith, or it might have been you, Mark. One of you guys mentioned earlier about how Shane Carruth wanted people to keep coming back to this film. And again, like I've said before, that's genius, that's cool, that's smart. But at the same time, when you have a movie on this kind of budget, I don't know if that's a good idea. I think on a larger budget, on a movie that had, you know, big previews, you know, big marketing shit like that, and you have a movie released in theaters, I think that the more the merrier, and how many more times people can come back and watch a movie to understand it. I think that would be a smarter move. I'm gonna have to give this movie a C+. And I give it a C+, for not just that reason, but because I have to see this again, which means I have to watch this whole fucking. And again, it's not a bad thing that I have to watch the movie, but it's just at the same time, it's not like I'm like, when I sit down and watch a movie, I don't want to sit down and watch it 5 or 6 times or whatever. It's fun if I love the movie. You know what I mean? I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the movies and go see that again. Well, or whatever. But you know, this movie, it was good, but it wasn't like superiorly great. So I have to give it a C+. You know, I'm not giving a C+ for the budget. I'm not giving a C+ for any visuals or anything like that, because honestly, for a movie like this, that's a pro. That's not a con to this movie. That's definitely a pro to this movie. Is that when you have the quality, like in terms of visuals, the quality and like the camera work and everything like that, I really enjoyed it. Because on a production level like this, you can't get better than this. Especially in 2004, I saw way worse movies with way worse quality that came out in 2006. So yeah, again, this movie definitely gets a C+ from me. Shout out to Jaron. Jaron says, "What's up, fellas?"
Jaron.
What's up, Jaron? Make sure you guys head over to the stream that we have going on here in a few minutes on the film panel. So make sure you guys check that out here as well. But yes, so we ended up giving our grades for this movie for Primer. I gotta say, I did enjoy it. I did enjoy this movie, but just wasn't really my cup of my. And again, to me, if it wasn't for the terminology, would you guys? I mean, obviously, you guys get this movie an A, so you guys obviously would still get this movie an A. But in terms of terminology, would you guys have given this an A+? If it didn't have the engineer terminology in it? Because that's the biggest bone I have to pick with this movie, as you guys can already tell. That's literally like the biggest bone that I have with this movie.
I probably still would, yeah. It wouldn't be in the same context because you know that's one of the pros for it, for me anyways.
What about you, Mark?
I am not really sure I can put into words why I didn't knock it up all the way to an A+. I mean, there's part of me that just thinks that I shouldn't cheapen my A+, because there are films that I'm definitely more passionate about than this film. I just admire it. I admire its courage. As much as I can like really inane, silly, dumb movies, at the same time, I love to just sit down with a movie that makes me think. It makes that says something, has something to say, and wants to make some sort of impact on people's lives beyond mere entertainment. Because I did think there was some entertainment in it, like I said before. And the jargon didn't necessarily take things away from me. I recognized some of the things, the terms and things like that, although I couldn't define them. I know like Feynman something or other. I know the scientist Richard J. Feynman. You know, he wrote some popular books that I haven't read, but things like that. I picked up on a little bit of the jargon, but again, I can't knock a movie for making people go and look things up. People could learn. You know, if you can learn from a movie in that way, well, good for the creator.
Yeah, and you know, I like movies. Like, you know, Yeah, I love the Inceptions, of the world. I love the Scanner Darklys of the world. I love the movies like that. But for some reason, this movie just did not exactly like I got like it was fun to watch. It was cool. It was entertaining. But at the end of the day, I there was something missing that really made me connect with this movie, and I don't know what it was. That's why I go to the whole terminology thing because that's my only big nitpick with this movie. But yeah, I'm gonna have to watch the movie again. That's all I know. I'm going to have to watch this movie again and probably a third time as well. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was our primer review. Make sure you guys go and watch that movie. You guys say to a very niche group of people to go see this or to watch this movie. When you guys would recommend, maybe like a certain group or certain friends to watch this movie, I recommend it to anybody. And the only reason why I say that is because you never know who really needs to sit down and watch a movie like this. you really don't. You really don't. So that is why I would recommend this movie to everyone. But anything else you guys want to say about Primer 2004?
Well, think about the budget. I mean, there are people who live in California who can't go a month without spending $7,000, and he made a whole film. So,
facts. Anything can be done. Anything can be done with $7,000 in the film, in the film world. Remember that. Mark, what about you? You have anything else to say about Primer?
Oh, I've said a lot, so I'll just leave it all at that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, make sure you guys head over, back over here to the channel here in a few minutes. We are going to be talking trailers. We're going to be talking box office and Turner Fast 9, all that good shit. So make sure you guys head back over here in a half-ass pod here in about 10 minutes. In the meantime, I am me. This is Mark Plaid. This is Smith. And we'll be back here in a few minutes to talk about more movie news. So, we are us. This is Half-Ass Pod, and we are OU.